John from the Martins family farm, Illawarra. How are you today? What a winter sort of day. Sunday afternoon, the 12th of July. Well, just out here at the out paddock, about to check the rain gauge. I'll actually check the rain gauge now, if you like, see what we've had out here. I normally check it of a morning, but I haven't got out here until a little bit late. So what's in the rain gauge here today? 15 millimetres, yep, and that's consistent with where I live, 5.6 kilometres to the north. That was 15 millimetres as well. I suspect most of that happened last night. They had a pretty big downpour out here last night, particularly south of the highway, and down through Kawarren, Barongarook and south of Colac as well. So we're a little bit high elevation up here compared to down home, and the rain tends to come across. Oh, well, it is winter, and it's good to see for a change, because the last few years we've been missing out on winter rainfall. Well, I'll just leave you there for the moment, and we'll go down the back and have a look and see what the conditions are like down the back of the farm. My family first purchased this farm out here, my dad's father, my grandfather, on the 16th of December 1937 out here. As I say, we're by road, we're 5.6 kilometres from the home farm, out paddock here. Totally different soil to down home. This is a nice sandy loam. You grow potatoes and all that out here. Really good country. If ever, I'll never retire, but if Jodie and I ever retire, we'll build our house up there. You'd never take a four-wheel drive vehicle around this paddock this time of the year, or from now on you get bogged, because you, as our pet friend, the famous friend, that's the mascot on the Martins family farm logo. So that's the famous friend, the cow, our pet. And the others are all up the other part there. So I was a little bit concerned earlier with all the predictions of El Nino and the like, and they were saying that going to be, well, still could be below average rainfall in the springtime too. You've got to get that rain in the spring to make a season, but at least we're getting something to get down into the soil profile now. So so that 15 millimetres there, plus the 150, so about 165 millimetres of rain since the start of June so far, up until, as I say, we're on the 12th of July. A little bit of feed coming away out here. Now, well, the big dam, we don't have stock access to the dam. Yeah, big dam, this one, 4 metres deep when it's full. But as I was saying before, as I say, my grandfather purchased this back in 1937, this property, and we use it as an out paddock. We used to have a lot of sheep years ago. This used to be the sheep dealing sort of hub, this down home. So we've always milked cows, always had sheep, dealt in cattle, and we used to always reflect on the good old days. Used to work very, very hard. As I say, my grandfather, then my father, and even us. As I say, I'm only 58 years old, but we did this for many, many years ourselves as kids growing up, in the hale and hardy days of the sheep and cattle dealing. Just continuing on with our doing the rounds of Edwards and Collins's Road here. I've just come in off the other road. I was at Edwards Road before. So off Collins's Road, checking a few more cattle. As I said, we're right on the sort of the edge of Colac, within a few kilometres here. We have hobby farms, like a rural residential to our west towards Colac there, and we're right on the boundary sort of here. A bit of rural residential to our north. And as I said, our family's owned this since the 16th of December 1937, so 89 odd years, and we'll never sell it. Our daughter Rachel's place when we're finished with it, so it'll remain in the Martin family hands still. Just better have a bit of a look at these cattle here. They haven't been wanting any hay, so it's just the green grass has been going through them. So they haven't been wanting to eat any of the hay. So we're not giving it to them. Mind you, probably a little bit understocked out here as well at the moment. And there's the shearing shed. As I say, that a lot of money's been made in that shearing shed over the decades. And you wouldn't think a two-stand shearing shed would shear 15,000 sheep a year, but that did that quite a few times. And apparently, my dad said, from when his grandfather said, and he came out here, it was all orchard trees out here, and these are the last remaining apple and pear trees out here when they purchased the place, and they suspect, and they were were well-grown orchard trees back in 1937, apparently. So those trees could have been planted before the turn of the century. So they could be well over 100 years old, well over. They're very, very old, very healthy trees, these pear and apple trees. See the shearing shed here? You see the western end, the rusty end? That's the original part of the old apple shed, apparently. Oh, it is actually, not apparently. You can actually see that inside, and then they converted that into the first little shearing shed, and they added it all off to the side and out the back. And so that rusty part of the shearing shed there would be one of the older buildings in the whole area here. So potentially around 1900, or it could even be a bit before. And all the old red gum stumps underneath the thing and that. So yeah, a lot of history in that shearing shed, a lot of history. Well, girls, I think I mentioned this before. The beef cows that we have, and we've got some more in the other places as well, they're out of Frisian cows by the Hereford bull. So once we do our AI and that type of thing, we either AI Herefords or put the herd bull over, which we don't have a Hereford anymore, put the herd bull over, and then we rear the progeny, the female progeny out of that for F1 Frisian Hereford cross heifers, and they're the ones that we use as replacements out here for our beef program. Then over those F1 heifers, if you like, and cows, we use Limousin bulls. But the key thing is it's all got to be ease of calving bulls. And as I said before, we get our bulls through Chris and Marilyn Mead, the Mead family, just out of Illawarra, Pelican Rise, and Chris does a magnificent job of advising us the right way for ease of calving Limousin bulls. We've been very, very fortunate with all the bulls we've bought off them over the years that it's worked out really well. And what we also do is all these heifers have had 2 runs of AI, dairy AI, and then naturally it's the same Limousin bulls that go over them. Here's an interesting tree. This would have to be one of the oldest living eucalypt trees in this part of Illawarra. Now, it doesn't look like it, but when I was a young fella, say I was 16, so roughly in about 1980 that would be, yeah, 1980, 42 years ago, that had a big, tall, hollow tree stump, a good 6 foot across at the base. It was all hollow, but it had a very thin strip of sapwood and a very tiny little bit of green branch on the top of it. And it blew over, and we fenced it off, and hopefully that the bit of live sapwood at the bottom would generate new shoots. So it did, and so that's what it's grown in 42 years. 7 foot at the base, 6-7 foot at the base, to be fully hollow, and there was nothing holding it. The tree experts would know. That tree at the time, back in 1980, could have been 200 years. Oh, look, I'm only guessing. 200 to 400 years old. Would not have a clue. A good 200 years old anyway. Possibly would have been standing alive as a young tree before European settlement, which European settlement in Illawarra was Hugh Murray in 1837. So I actually would have had to have been, because the Martins bought this place in 1937. Yeah, so we're probably looking at a 300 to 400 year old tree there, and that's what it's grown in 42 years once it broke off, and that tiny little bit of green sapwood from the hollow tree has grown a tree that big. So Dad said even when he was a young fella, because my dad was born in 1927, there were quite a few old remnants of old stag trees, well, for bush. So this would have been very light timbered bush back in the day out here. So anyhow, I just thought it was worth mentioning that. The old tree that would be actually interesting to get a core date at the base, or it's still pretty hollow, be hard to do. But as I say, who knows, hundreds of years old, potentially 300 to 400. No worries. Until next time, have a good one. Catch ya, John.